19-year-old David Miller woke up on Thursday morning, March 15, 2012, with the first rays of the sun. That morning was like any other. His mother was preparing breakfast in the kitchen. His father was reading his newspaper. His little sister Emma was busy preparing her school bag. It was an ordinary morning for an ordinary family. No one knew that this would be David's last morning of freedom. "David, come to breakfast," his mother Sarah called. David sat at the table. His mother's scrambled eggs, fresh bread, olives. Everything was so normal. "Are you meeting your friends today?" his father John asked. "Yes, Dad. I'm going to the cinema with Michael in the evening. We're going to watch the new movie." At that moment, none of them could have predicted it. David wouldn't be coming home that evening. David Miller was a good student. He had just been accepted to State University to study engineering. His grades were excellent. His future was bright. He had never been in trouble with the law, never even received a parking ticket. He was the kind of young man every parent hoped their child would become. That evening, David and Michael met at the cinema at 8 p.m. They bought tickets for the latest action thriller. The theater was packed with people. They grabbed popcorn and sodas, joking about their plans for university in the fall. The movie started at 8:30 p.m. and ended at 10:45 p.m. They walked out into the cool night air, discussing their favorite scenes. "That car chase was insane," Michael said, mimicking the steering wheel movements. "I know. And when the hero jumped from the building, I thought he was done for," David laughed. They didn't know that while they were watching fictional violence on screen, real violence was unfolding just blocks away. A man named Marcus Stone, desperate and addicted, had decided that night would be his last robbery. He needed money for his next fix. Henry Wilson's convenience store seemed like an easy target. It was 10:47 p.m. when David and Michael left the cinema. They took the bus to drop Michael off at home. Under normal circumstances, David would be home at 11:15 p.m. But fate had other plans. "Stop! Stop! I'm getting off!" an elderly woman shouted. The bus stopped at an unexpected place. This created a 7-minute delay. Just 7 minutes. 7 minutes that would destroy a person's life. David dropped Michael off in front of his house at 11:22 p.m. "See you tomorrow, man," Michael said, waving goodbye. "Yeah, see you," David replied, starting his walk home. He had only 200 meters to go. His house was so close he could almost see his bedroom window. He started walking down Maple Street, the dark street that would change his life forever. At that very moment, 2 streets away on Oak Avenue, Marcus Stone was pointing a gun at Henry Wilson. "Give me the money. Now!" Marcus screamed, his hands shaking. Henry, 62 years old and a store owner for 30 years, reached for the silent alarm. Marcus panicked and pulled the trigger. The gunshot echoed through the quiet neighborhood. Henry fell to the ground, bleeding from his abdomen. Marcus grabbed what cash he could and ran out into the night, turning left onto Maple Street. His black jacket flapped behind him as he ran. David was 200 meters from his home when he heard police sirens. 2 police cars suddenly entered the street. Gunshots were being fired. David froze in fear. He didn't know what to do. Should he run? Should he hide? Before he could decide, police surrounded him. "Hands up! Don't move!" 4 police officers surrounded him with their guns drawn. His hands were handcuffed. He was in shock. "What's happening? I didn't do anything," he shouted, his voice cracking with fear. "He robbed the nearby store. Shot the owner," one of the officers said, pressing David against the police car. "No. There's a mistake. I was at the cinema with my friend. Call him. Call Michael. He'll tell you. But no one was listening. The real robber, Marcus Stone, had already disappeared into the night, running through backyards and alleys. He had thrown away his black jacket in a dumpster 3 blocks away. He was home within 20 minutes, destroying evidence and planning his next move. David was pushed into the back of the police car. The sound of sirens was splitting his head. His heart was beating so fast he couldn't breathe. His mind raced. This couldn't be happening. He had done nothing wrong. He was just walking home from the movies. He was taken to the police station. The fluorescent lights were harsh and unforgiving. Hours passed in the interrogation room. Detective James Crawford asked the same questions over and over, his face stern and unyielding. Where were you between 10:30 and 11 p.m.? At the cinema. I told you. I was watching a movie. Which movie? Dark Justice. The new action movie. Who saw you there? Michael, my friend. The ticket seller. Other people in the theater. There were hundreds of people there. Can you prove it? I don't have my ticket. I threw it away. But Michael can confirm it. Call him, please. We will. What were you doing on Maple Street at 11:25 p.m.? Walking home. I live there. I was just walking home from dropping off my friend. Why were you wearing a black jacket? I wasn't. I'm wearing a blue hoodie. Look at it. But in the dim light of the street, to rushing police officers, blue could look black. Colors blur in the darkness. Fear makes people see what they expect to see. The store owner who was injured in the robbery, Henry Wilson, was in a coma at the hospital. Doctors worked through the night to save his life. The bullet had punctured his liver. His chances of survival were 50-50. But the store owner's son, Robert Wilson, had arrived at the scene just after the shooting. He had told the police something. I saw him. I was driving here when I saw someone running from the store. He was tall, wearing a black jacket, young. I saw his face for just a second under the streetlight as he was running away. I'll never forget that face. The police showed him David's photo at 2 a.m. Robert had been at the hospital for 3 hours. His father was dying. His world was collapsing. His eyes were red from crying. His hands were shaking. Is this him? Take your time. Look carefully. But Robert didn't take his time. He wanted revenge for his father. His eyes were blinded with anger and grief. He didn't look at the photo carefully. All he saw was a young man, someone to blame, someone to punish. Yes, that's him. Definitely this kid. I'd recognize him anywhere. That's the monster who shot my father. At that moment, David's fate was sealed. Being in the wrong place at the wrong time was enough for him to be guilty. The real killer, Marcus Stone, watched the news the next morning. He saw David's arrest. He saw the confident press conference where police announced they had caught the perpetrator. He felt relief wash over him. Someone else was taking the fall. He could get away with it. And he said nothing. The first hearing was held 3 months later, in June 2012. David was brought into the courtroom in an orange jumpsuit, pale-faced, having lost 10 kilograms. 3 months in jail awaiting trial had aged him. His eyes, once bright with ambition, were now hollow with despair. His mother Sarah was crying in the front row. His father John sat beside her, his jaw clenched, unable to look at his son in chains. Little Emma, now 12 years old, didn't understand why her brother was in a cage. She kept asking, "When is David coming home?" Nobody had the heart to tell her the truth. The courtroom was packed. Local media had covered the case extensively. Promising student turns violent criminal, read one headline. University accept turns store robber, said another. Public opinion had already convicted him. The prosecutor, District Attorney Catherine Hayes, stood up. She was known for her 94% conviction rate. She was tough, ambitious, and determined to add another win to her record. Your Honor, the defendant David Miller robbed Henry Wilson's store on March 15, 2012, and seriously injured him by shooting. Mr. Wilson spent 2 weeks in intensive care and barely survived. This was a violent, premeditated crime. The defendant was identified by an eyewitness, Robert Wilson, who saw him fleeing the scene. The defendant has no alibi except the word of his friend, which is clearly biased. The evidence is clear. The defendant is guilty. David's lawyer, public defender Thomas Green, jumped up. He was overworked, underpaid, and handling 60 cases simultaneously. He did his best, but he was drowning in the system. We object. My client was at the cinema at that time. His friend Michael Reeves confirms this. They watched a movie together. My client has no criminal record. He's a good student about to start university. This is a case of mistaken identity. The real perpetrator is still out there. But Michael's statement was not considered sufficient. His friend would naturally protect him, said Prosecutor Hayes dismissively. Friendship is not evidence. We have an eyewitness who positively identified the defendant at the scene. That is evidence. The defense tried to present the cinema tickets as proof. But David had thrown his ticket away after the movie. The cinema had sold 847 tickets that night. There was no way to prove David had been there. The ticket seller didn't remember him. Why would she? He was just one face among hundreds. Security cameras at the cinema? They existed, but the footage was only kept for 30 days. By the time the defense requested it, it had been automatically deleted. Security cameras on Maple Street where David was arrested? There were none. The city budget had cut funding for streetlight cameras in that neighborhood. The only evidence was Robert's testimony. A grief-stricken son identifying someone in the dark, under stress, for a split second. And this was enough to convict David. The jury deliberated for 6 hours. Some jurors had doubts, but the majority believed Robert. After all, why would he lie? His father had been shot. He had no reason to identify the wrong person. On June 28, 2012, the judge gave his verdict. The courtroom was silent, waiting. The defendant David Miller has been found guilty of armed robbery and assault with a deadly weapon. He is sentenced to 18 years in the Chicago State Prison. May God have mercy on his soul. Screams rose in the courtroom. Sarah fainted and had to be carried out by paramedics. Emma burst into tears, not understanding what was happening but feeling the weight of the moment. John Miller sat frozen, unable to process that his son was being taken away for nearly 2 decades. David's legs gave out. Guards had to hold him up as they led him away. He looked back at his family one last time. "I didn't do it," he screamed. "I'm innocent. Please, someone believe me." But the gavel had fallen. The system had spoken. Chicago State Prison. 2012 to 2024. 12 years. David had entered prison at 19 years old. Now he was 31. His youth, his dreams, his girlfriend Jessica, his family, his future. Everything was left behind bars. The first year was the hardest. His cellmates didn't trust him. Robber, they called him. Shooter. Nobody believed in his innocence. Claiming innocence in prison was common. Everyone said they were innocent. David wrote letters to lawyers, to innocence projects, to anyone who might listen. Most went unanswered. The second year, his mother came every week. Every Sunday at 2 p.m., she was there. She never missed a visit. She cried at every visit, but she always smiled when she saw him. "We'll be patient, son. Justice will prevail. God sees the truth. We'll fight this." But justice wasn't coming. His appeals were denied. One after another. The system was not designed to admit its mistakes. Third year, a letter came from Jessica. It was the last letter. The words were kind but final. "I loved you, David, I really did. But I can't wait 15 more years. I have to live my life. Please forgive me. I'll always remember the good times we had." David read the letter 50 times. Then he tore it up. Then he cried for 3 days. Fourth year, his father had a massive heart attack. The stress of having his son in prison, the financial burden of legal fees, the shame he felt in the community, it all became too much. John Miller died on a cold February morning. David submitted a request to attend the funeral. It was denied. Security risk, they said. He couldn't even say goodbye to his father. Fifth year, he started to lose hope. The appeals had all failed. Nobody was listening. Nobody cared. He was just another number in the system. Inmate 847,293. He began to accept that he might die in prison. But in the 6th year, something changed. In 2018, a journalist named Alex Thompson was researching judicial errors for a documentary series. He was looking for cases of possible wrongful conviction. David's case came across his desk. Something about it bothered him. The evidence was thin. One eyewitness testimony. No physical evidence. No fingerprints. No DNA. No weapon. No stolen money found. Just one person's word. Alex started digging. He requested all the case files. He interviewed everyone involved. He found Michael Reeves, who still insisted David was innocent. He found the cinema, which still had records showing the movie schedule that night. Most importantly, he found inconsistencies. While examining David's case, he noticed something crucial. The witness Robert's statement didn't match the crime scene reports. Robert had described the person who shot his father as tall, wearing a black jacket, running east on Maple Street. But the police report indicated